On June the 24th, 2022, as a RC air tractor runs on the runway in order for takeoff, the worst fears of any RC pilot happens. What is it? Why is he yelling like that? And he just got off the runway, and we will all know something very bad is happening. I cannot get it back!
Mayday, mayday! Send the cruisers immediately.
This film tells the story of a tragic and avoidable disaster. The investigation would reveal a lethal combination of a pilot error and amateur maintenance. It would also uncover a disturbing evidence of flight winning at any cost, no matter what the risks are. In recent years, more and more hobbyists join the world of RC piloting. One of them is Asaf Perry. Asaf joined this hobby less than a year before and advanced rapidly. It was a beautiful morning on June the 24th, 2022, while Asaf Perry went to the field to fly his airplane. Asaf was getting ready for takeoff. He starts increasing the throttle and the plane starts to run down the runway. But then, an unexpected thing happens. The plane yaws sharply to the right and getting off the runway. The propeller then hit the ground and destroyed. Help cruisers are rushing to the accident scene. They discovered hard pictures of destroyed propeller and Asaf shocked and traumatized. Immediately after recovery of the wreckage of the plane, the NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board, is called to investigate the accident. Okay, let's see. The NTSB investigators examine the plane. They can notice the severe damage of the propeller. The NTSB investigator then talks to Asaf. Asaf tells that immediately after starting the run of the plane, it yawed sharply to the right. The investigators decided to examine the training record and flight records of Asaf. They discovered that Asaf went through all necessary courses and trainings and that he is a great pilot with hundreds of hours of flying, including hundreds of takeoffs and landings. He even awarded as the best student of Asaf Perry's flying school. His record is without flaw. The investigators wonder, how come such an accident happens to a fine pilot like Asaf? We gotta check the black box. Asaf Perry's Airlines has just finished programming a state-of-the-art software that allows plotting visually the flight telemetry data that's being recorded on the SD card put in the remote control. The investigators then download the data to the program. The investigators want to focus at the last flight, where the accident happened. They can notice that indeed the plane diverged from the runway. Now the investigators want to examine the flight, second by second. They can see that Asaf starts by putting the flaps on takeoff mode. Flaps helps make takeoff shorter by increasing the wing lift. The air tractor is a tailwheel plane. Due to their physical characteristics, tailwheel planes tend to yaw left on takeoffs, especially if the throttle increases rapidly. Pilots are trained to counter this tendency with a right rudder input as needed and gradual increasement of the throttle. The investigators see that Asaf starts to increase the throttle gradually, as expected from an experienced pilot as him. But they also notice something strange. They see that Asaf inputs left rudder. They also see that at some point Asaf increases the throttle rapidly. They go back and question him. Asaf says that the airplane had a strong tend to yaw to the right, and that's why he used the left rudder. As for the rapid increasement of the throttle, he is being hard to remind, but he assumes that it was an instinctive action in order to get the plane up in the air quick before it getting off the runway. The investigators were puzzled. We couldn't explain the sharp yawing of the plane. In addition to the natural tendency of planes to yaw to the left on takeoffs, Asaf had input left rudder during the takeoff, and the rapid increasement in the throttle at some point should have increased the tendency to yaw to the left even more. Yet the plane yawed sharply to the right. What made the plane yaw so sharply to the right? They decide to check the wheels on the plane. What they discover shocks them. The right wheel gear of the plane is totally bent to the right. He couldn't stand a chance. What made the wheel gear to deform like that? They are pressured by the media to give answers, but they do not know. The investigators decide to check the maintenance record of the plane. Look at that! They are surprised to discover that the day before the accident, the plane made another accident. The investigators investigate the mechanic. He tells them that he did all the repairs on the plane the day before. The investigators ask him about the wheel gear. The mechanic said that he knows that the gears shouldn't be tried to bend back, so he didn't touch them. He knows that buying a new one will ground the plane for a month, and he thought that the bend is not that critical as to prevent from the plane to fly. Now the investigators know how to tell exactly the chain of events that caused the accident in the morning of June the 24th, 2022. A day before the accident, the plane made another accident. The wheel gears were deformed in the accident. A mechanic fixed the plane except for the wheel gears, which shouldn't be touched. Waiting for a new gear would ground the plane for a month. He thought that the plane is capable of flying despite the deformation. In the morning of the accident, Asaf starts to run the plane on the runway. He feels the tendency of the plane to yaw to the right and try to fight it with left rudder, but in vain. The plane gets off the runway and hits the propeller. In their final report, the NTSB investigators put the blame both on the mechanic and the pilot. They conclude that both of them was so eager to fly that they ignore severe defect in the plane. Furthermore, they write in the report that the pilot should have aborted the takeoff as soon as he felt that the airplane tends to yaw to the right, instead of trying to take off at any cost. The investigators put a recommendation to remind pilots and mechanics that safety is above all. Nothing can bring back time for my brother, but at least the lessons from the accident will prevent it from happening again. For the victims and families of the victims of the June 24th, 2022 accident, the investigation report is too late, but it can make it as a lesson to improve the flight world and make it safer and better.